Hello, welcome to mrsijskids Inclusive Podcast. My name is Anyaoku-Popoola, and you can call me IJ. I will be your host. On this podcast, we'll be talking about the stigma individuals with special needs face on a day-to-day basis on the continent of Africa. We'll be bringing to you professionals in the disability field, sharing resources and information that can benefit any educator, parent, caregiver, and community with persons with disabilities. Join me on this journey in spreading hope and resilience as we advocate for inclusive education on the beautiful continent of Africa. Hello, this is Anyaoku-Popoola with the mrsijskids Inclusive Podcast, and I have a very special guest today. His name is Mr. Chidiebere Ibe, and I'm going to let him just go ahead and introduce himself because I think the world has introduced him to us in the last couple of days, and we're just so excited at the Inclusive Podcast to be able to talk to him about all the things that he's doing and just everything. So, Mr. Chidiebere, thank you for being on the mrsijskids Inclusive Podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you.
Awesome. So if you could introduce yourself to our followers and our listeners, tell us about yourself and what you do. We wanted us to start from kind of the very beginning, but just introduce who you are to us, please.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Chidiebere Ibe, and I'm a Nigerian and also a Nigerian Medical Illustrator. And I'm a medical student at the AFAN Medical University in Ukraine. I did a first degree in chemistry at the University of Uyo in Nigeria. I hold several positions globally. I'm the Creative Director of the Association of African Neurosurgeons, and I'm also the Chief Medical Illustrator of the Journal of Global Neurosurgery. And I'm also a junior committee member, Journal of World Federation of Neurosurgical Society's Global Neurosurgery Committee. I mean, there are a lot of portfolios, but I'll just have to stop there. I'm passionate about art and medicine, and illustrating Black patients and advocating for healthcare equity through my illustrations. And I intend pursuing a career in pediatric neurosurgery. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's so amazing. I mean, you wear many hats. There's so much accolades on your resume, but as far as we know, we just heard about you probably in November because of your medical illustrations that depicted the Black fetus in the Black woman. But when I saw your story, I asked myself, well, who is Chidiebere and what is his story? Obviously, his story didn't start here. His story started a while ago. So could you just tell us a little bit more about your story and how you got into medical illustrations?
All right. So being passionate about nursing and being fascinated about the whole the medical field generally, I tried medical school for 10 good years. I wasn't admitted in Nigeria, and because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a medical doctor, and I kept applying. So I didn't have it. So I had to go to a first degree in chemistry because I didn't want to stay at home anymore. My friends were already in school, and they wanted to do something with my time. So while doing my first degree, I kept applying to medical school in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. I still was not admitted. In 2020, so before then, I had to learn a couple of skills. I had to learn graphic designs. I had to learn photography, videography. I had to learn so many things just to get money and just to keep myself going. Wow. So when the lockdown came very hard on me, lockdown came, I didn't have money anymore. And that's where I took the bold step to reach out to the group which I currently work, the Association of African Neurosurgeons. I reached out to them and said that I wanted to work for them, that I have a graphic design skills, and they could pay me to do designs for them. And I received a prompt response and said that there are no funds to pay me. And because I love medicine, and I quickly said I wanted to volunteer to create designs for them. So while creating the designs, I met my mentor, Dr. Ulrich Sydney. So he saw my artwork because I was already an artist. So I was drawing African children with pen and pencil. And he said, you love medicine and you love artwork. Why not go into medical illustration? Because I had never heard of such thing before in my entire life. I was like, what was that? I had to make research about it. I had to read on it. And I found it quite very interesting. So I said I was going to do this. And I was in medical school then. So how will I draw it? I had to get medical textbooks. And I saw the whole anatomy. It was just too complex. I was like, what am I going to do with this anatomy? And I have no prior knowledge of these things. It was a big challenge for me. So I had to teach myself anatomy, the little I know now. Wow. I teach myself the software that I use right now. So basically everything that I know right now is what I had taught myself in any field I mastered, both graphic design and what I had taught myself generally. So I grew from there. I started drawing Black people on and on and on.
Wow. So, okay, there's so many things in your story that I just want to pick out just a little bit. A lot of people don't understand, especially with young people, because I'm Nigerian and just like you, left Nigeria to go to a developed country so that we can get, an education and chase our dreams. But a lot of young people in Nigeria may not necessarily have those opportunities because, like you said, we had the lockdown, you ran out of funds, and so you had to tap into something that you probably didn't know was going to yield to this. But it's interesting how coming from a place of not having has really blown up in addition to your passion to bring you to where you are today. So it just tells how resilient you are with your gifts and your talents. And everything just coming and lying together. So you said you enjoy the idea of the representation of Black people, especially in medical illustrations. Why is representation so important? Because I don't know if you really understand the grasp what you have been able to do with your passion, because I had never seen a Black person in a medical textbook, for that matter, with those illustrations. So it really opened up all our eyes. Why are you so passionate about representation? Why is it so important to you?
All right, it's important to me because first of all, when I was teaching myself these illustrations, I didn't see white illustrations. So because I knew from the start I was going to draw Black illustrations, and because I was basically teaching myself these illustrations, so I had no reference. I had no Black drawings to use as a reference point to learning. So it became a big challenge for me, and I said I was going to work towards addressing this. And then on and on and on, through research, through a lot of readings, I realized that there's a whole lot of healthcare disparity. There's a lot of healthcare inequities, and that has been premised on representation. Because I didn't realize that a lot of organizations have been advocating for inclusion, for diversity, but I felt it was premised on representation, because representation premised inclusion, because you cannot have an inclusive system without proper representation. Right. So then I was passionate about representing people, and then I now understand that if we are going to have a good healthcare outcome, if we're going to have a better healthcare delivery to patients, it's important that the healthcare professionals or the medical students in training are being trained with diverse materials where they will have a prior experience to delivering these healthcare services. So then I now understood that this is why this representation matters, because it's also going to give the Black patient or the Black people the confidence to walk into a hospital and meet his or her doctor. Because I tell you, recently, a lot of Black patients have lacked confidence because they know that if they go to the hospital, they will not receive that equal healthcare attention or equal healthcare services as a white person would receive. So that is still based on the concept of representation. Because if a pregnant woman walks into the hospital for maternity checkup, all drawings she sees are all white illustrations. They are not; those drawings do not speak to her personally, and of course might not be able to resonate with her baby that she intends into the world. So this is why representation really does matter, because it also gives people a sense of value and respect. Exactly. Recently there's a lot of research that also showed that in the US there's a lot of healthcare disparities where Black women are assumed to be very strong and they could take care of themselves. Yeah. And that is what representation would do. That representation would help address issues like that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You're speaking our language here at the mrsijskids Inclusive Podcast, because inclusion is so important. And a lot of times we've toss that word around, but when we bring it down to, our career, like mine is in education and yours is in the medical field, you can't have inclusion and not have representation, because then it's not really diversity, right? And it takes people like you to break, some of those biases, because I didn't even know, speaking of biases, I didn't even know that there was that much. I mean, I knew, but like when you hear these stories, you realize that we still have biases. There are biases in the medical field, in every pretty much every career field you can think of. And it's pretty well known. However, these biases become even more obvious to us, the average person, when we now see, right? We understand the power of visuals. Like in education, we always tell our learners that some students learn, by hearing. They learn better by hearing. Some learn better by visuals. And there are a lot of children right now who have seen what you've done that has really opened up their mind on, wow, this actually is something that I was missing. So, my question is, what is the driving force in, well, I think you've explained it though, but if you could just go further into it, why do you think that us as a society are just getting here? Like you said, you had to you had no prior thing to look at. You had no prior textbooks, and you had to, pretty much, I don't want to say out of thin air, but you had to have that creative thinking to make it happen. But what really is the driving force with you getting into medicine is what I wanted to know. Why medicine?
All right. So when I was young, the first career I had ever decided to do was to be a medical doctor. And I didn't see myself doing anything other than medicine, And that's why I kept on applying for years and years and years, because I knew that that's where my life was going to be. That's what I was creating. Like, I knew really well that was what I was meant to do. And even when family said that you are all alone in this career, that they were not going to support your school fees, wow, I was still going to be fine. I knew that this was what I was meant to do. And growing up with that, when I was 16 years, I lost my mom to ovarian cancer.
Oh, and I'm so sorry about
that. Thank you. That particular incident had to fasten my interest, fasten my passion for medicine, because it was something very drastic that happened in my life, and I didn't want any child to go through what I'd gone through, and so that built a strong passion for medicine, and that's why I just kept on pushing and kept on pursuing my vision.
Wow. So do you have any medical doctors in your family, or you're going to be like the first? Oh my goodness. Nigeria is just wrapping their hands around you right now. You don't even understand, especially just sharing your personal story that, you, and I'm really, really sorry to hear about that, but to just think of, first you're 25. And I mean, if your mom was here now, she would be so proud of you. And to see what you have been able to do, you took, something that could have been a very dark place in your life, and you've turned it around and you've followed your dreams. I mean, there are a lot of young Nigerians, young Black people that you are going to change their lives just by their story. And I mean, we're not going to get emotional, but that's amazing. As a Nigerian, I'm so super proud, but I'm going to stick to my story. I'm going to stick to my questions so I don't go, too far away. So what do you think when you think about like drawing the Black fetus, right, in the Black body and how it resonated around the world? Why do you think, because you said you were already drawing other illustrations, why did this one in particular resonate with everybody from every culture that we could even think of? Why do you think this one did?
Well, first of all, the topic of mother and child has been a very powerful topic for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, healthcare facility, or healthcare system rather, has so much attention on children and women. I mean, very, very, very little speak about men, but you feel that men are strong, Mm-hmm. But basically, the focus has been on children and women. And when that drawing was created, the drawing came in a period where there was a whole lot of maternal issues, where there was high maternal mortality rate, where there was infant mortality rate, where there was a lot of healthcare disparities among Black women, and that's where the drawing was able to resonate. That's how the drawing was able to speak very loud. Basically, there are a couple of Black drawings online, of pregnant women, but the skin tone that I used to depict that drawing has not been. I used a very dark skin tone, which shows a typical African woman. Yeah. And that's why that drawing was able to resonate with how the person and people. And basically, for other illustrations online, the skin of the mother might be dark, but the baby was always a bit white, yeah. And that's what created the attention, because people had never seen a Black fetus ever in a Black woman. So that's what attracted the attention of people. all over the world. So I do believe that that was the foundation, or that was the reason why that drawing really went viral.
Wow. I mean, as a mother of three, it hit me too. I mean, I was so almost teary-eyed because I had never seen it, and when you think of young mothers who are having kids, and it's your first experience. I mean, if I had seen an image like that, it would have brought some comfort to me at the time. But like you said, sometimes Black women are depicted as, oh, we're strong, we can do it. Sometimes it's okay for us to be soft. We don't always have to be hard, but it is true that it really resonated with me. And I think with a lot of younger women who will be having kids, it'll really be a source of comfort to them. So I know that you are part of the Future African Neurosurgeons. I mean, again, your accolades at 25 is amazing. And why do you think, I don't know if you started it or you're part of it, but why is this group of young African neurosurgeons extremely important? And I want to harp on education because I'm so passionate about education in Nigeria, especially education for students with disabilities, being able to have free education with their disability. And I'm also passionate about why so many of us Nigerians have had to leave our country for better education when there is no reason why we cannot have this quality of education in our country. But why do you think this group is so important for young future neurosurgeons?
Well, first of all, I think that's one of the best questions I've ever been asked in my interviews so far.
Yes,
because
I just came from the podcast.
Yeah, because the Future African Neurosurgeon Forum is my foundation. Is where that's where I ever had to start working. That's where I met my mentor, who is the founder of that association. And what that association does, it is a neurosurgery interest group where students seek mentorship, where students are being taught on research, are being guided on a career path where younger people like us are being mentored by other doctors who have conquered their careers. So joining the association really helped me, really molded me. For example, before I joined the association, I didn't know how to do a proper email communication. I didn't know how to type properly. I didn't know how to make a proper post online. But through joining that organization or that association, I was able to learn these things through my mentor. And it's quite important for every young person out there who wants to make an impact, who wants to do great things. Generally, it's about mentorship, because this association helps you helps mold you to becoming the person you want to be. And it's as important that, because school itself might not give you every experience you might want. School is focused on building your knowledge per se, your academic knowledge. But for you to build your career in all perspective, you must be attached to an organization or an association that has same passion or has same goal in building young people. And that's what my association has been able to do among every young person. And the fact is the result has been reproducible. So if you join the association, or for every young medical student who has joined, the result has really shown, because there's been a lot of improvement. Their CV has improved, their research ability has improved, and that's what this association does. It just helps you become a better version of yourself.
And we will have information about the organization, so that, because we have a lot of Africans here in Germany, we're based in Germany, who would definitely benefit from something like that. And even in the United States, we could share that information. So my second to last question is, when I think about your story and I think of how resilient you are and how far you've come, I think about, the young boy or girl who lives in a rural village somewhere in Nigeria and who hopes to be a doctor and does not have the representation or the connection or the money or the finances. It probably doesn't look like they could go to school. What is your word of encouragement for them with your life story and how you have been able to just pull through and get to where you are today? What can you say to that young boy or girl who lives in a village somewhere in Nigeria, any part of Africa, who might want to be a doctor too?
All right. So from my personal experiences, it's the path to greatness has not always been easy. Never has always been easy. And one of the good signs that you are on the right track to something great is that you have a lot of obstacles on that track. And when I was learning medical illustration, from where I lived, there was no power supply. Of course, now Nigeria could be
That's right.
Power supply. So I had to make 1 hour travel every day to church where I could see light and where I could stay to learn medical illustrations. So for me, hard work has been always my watchword, and most times I may not take into prior consideration. To me, I may not feel I'm working so hard, but I knew I was doing something. I knew I was pushing myself deliberately to becoming who I was. At some point, my friends started calling me church boy because I was always in church every day working with my old laptop, my computer mouse. And the fact is this, I never knew I would be famous this early, but I knew that I was prepared for this moment. I knew I had worked hard for this moment. And for every young person out there who is in the same situation like me, it's also very important to know who you are as a person, because I talk about this every time. One thing that have helped me was discovering who I was very early. And that's why I wasn't easily deceived. I wasn't easily sidetracked from my purpose, from what I wanted to do. Even when people had discouraged me, family left me alone, friends had said that, you are wasting your life. When we leave medical school and think of marriage and all of that, people say a lot of things, and how to stay on my track, because I knew this is exactly what I wanted to do. And for every young person out there who's going through the same thing I'm going through, it's also important that you know who you are as a person, because knowing who you are will build a solid foundation. Because I say this as often, our faith in what we believe, or our faith in staying on the track, is premised on the information we've built over time in our mind. It's premised on the mindset we've built, and mindset is built upon good information. So when you're able to tell yourself, you're able to detect who you are and who you're not, that would help you conquer your difficulties. Because in the journey, something happened to me some years ago when I was traveling. I tell this story a lot. When I was traveling to somewhere, being that I had loved medicine, I had loved doctors, how they drilled and how they spoke, everything about them. So I stood in front of a hospital trying to board a taxi to travel. And behind me was just a hospital. And I turned to the hospital. I said, my God, how beautiful this hospital. When will I ever go into this hospital? When will I ever go inside? Amazing to know that same day, I actually went to the hospital. But not as a doctor, but as a patient.
Yeah.
Because while coming back, I had an accident that took me to that same hospital. Then I had to understand, I had to remember what I said. How will I go? I didn't actually clarify, is it as a doctor or as a medical student or as a patient? Then I understood that my words were tools to creating my existence. So to every young person out there, understanding who you are is key. Creating your future, creating an opportunity for yourself through your words and through your zest is key to becoming everything. Life is difficult generally. Life has not been rosy generally. But who you are, conquering who you are generally would be the key to achieving that. I know it's difficult. It's difficult, but it can be done.
Wow, Chidiebere, I don't know. You, 25, your mother will be so proud. And I know that her spirit is going to go with you everywhere you go. You are a dynamic speaker at such a young age, and you are such an inspiration, even to people who are your peers and those that are, older than you and younger than you. And, like you said, I think wrapping up what you're saying in a few words is that what is yours is yours. Hard work never kills. Stay, motivated, stay encouraged. And, when you're focused on what you're doing, it's like God has a way of bringing the right people to you, while you're doing it. And I think that is what you have said. And you have inspired me so much. And honestly, I'm very grateful that you took the time. You are definitely one to watch. We're going to be watching you. Know that every Nigerian in the diaspora is rooting for you. We have our arms around you. We're supporting you. And definitely a connection that we'll love to keep in touch with in the future. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for following your passion. Thank you for not giving up on yourself, because now you've really changed the world as it is. And we're very grateful that you're in it. So thank you so much, Chidiebere. Thank you for being on the Inclusive Podcast.
Thank you so much. The pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Miss IJ's Kids Inclusive Podcast this week. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so on our website at www.ijpopoola.com. Or if you want to write to us about topics you would love to hear covered on the show, the email address is popoloijelma@gmail.com, one word. And if you'd like to follow us on our social media pages, it's at Miss IJ's Kids. I am IJ Popoola, and you've listened to Miss IJ's Kids Inclusive Podcast.